here we are in December, back in court for the state of Florida versus Sarah Boone. If you watched the trial with me live here on the channel, then you are very familiar with this case. If you did not watch the trial with me and you are just tuning in, don't worry, I've got you. Sarah Boone was convicted of the second-degree murder of her boyfriend, George Torres, when she left him zipped in a suitcase and then recorded herself mocking and taunting him, amongst other things. She put on a defense of battered spouse syndrome. The jury did not find that credible and did not deliberate very long in convicting her of that second-degree murder. That defense opened the door for a lot of information we wouldn't have seen otherwise that did not paint Sarah Boone in a good light. And the danger with that is the judge has now seen those videos too. They were shocking and heartbreaking. And Sarah Boone recorded herself abusing and berating her victim. And what the problem is with that is her defense was always a long shot. But now the judge knows. The judge has now seen all those videos. The judge wouldn't have seen those videos otherwise. He might have heard about them from the prosecution, but it wouldn't be so visceral. Seeing it is different. Being told about it, hearing lawyers talk about it is different. So with that second-degree murder conviction, she is facing a minimum of 22 and a half years, a maximum of life, and that's an indeterminate life. It is a second-degree murder. She is also facing a maximum of 15 years on the lesser included manslaughter, but she won't be sentenced to both of them. They are included in one another. So the second degree murder, that manslaughter is lesser included. So with that second degree murder conviction, the minimum is 22 and a half years. The maximum is life. I imagine that this is a foregone conclusion that she will get life. The real questions here are who from the victim's family will speak. I'm sure there will be some, and possibly his children. Will Sarah Boone speak on her own behalf? She'll have the opportunity to. And what will the judge say?
The court needs to address the defendant's motion for new trial and the state's response to the defendant's motion for new trial. Anything in addition you'd like to argue at this time,
yes,
Mr.
please.
Owens, over and above
what
is contained in your motion, sir?
I want to hear what they have to say.
State. No, sir. All right. After reviewing the motion and the state's response the same, the defendant's motion for a new trial is denied.
Yeah.
Based on the court's review of the record, the court's participation in the trial, review of all the evidence, and the court's prior findings and rulings at trial and prior thereto. With that,
denied. Moving on to sentencing.
Well, I live in Minnesota. I currently have end-stage renal disease. Before I became disabled, I was a business owner in the Twin Cities here.
And
all right. And how old are you?
I am 50 years old.
All right. And
I'm sorry to hear that.
You're considered disabled?
Yes, I am.
All right. And have you had an occasion since this event to establish a relationship with Sarah Boone?
Is this someone who's a pen pal because they watch this case online? This can't be.
Yes, I have. We have been friends for the past a little over 11 months.
And how do y'all communicate?
We've communicated a lot of phone calls, lots of tablet back and forth, and a lot of letters as well. I'd say many hours of time spent with each other.
All right. And do you want to speak on her behalf here today?
I would, please.
I have seen a lot of things happen in court. What I have not seen is someone who has become pen pals with a high-profile inmate actually speak on their behalf at their sentencing.
Thank you very much, Your Honor, for the privilege of speaking on behalf of my friend Sarah Boone. I also want to extend my heartfelt condolences to everyone here affected by this terrible tragedy, which has brought us all here and listening in. Many articles and videos and opinions of Sarah have gone out in the airways and on the webs. Opinions that have been formed and commented on so much that it's hard not to give into the temptation to treat people like a comic book or a fictional character. In the case of my friend Sarah, the words narcissist, Karen, villain, many other things, they roll off the tongue with little regard to the humanity that is dismissed so flippantly. And under a lot of circumstances, I was one of those people as I have a love of true crime, and becoming friends with Sarah has shown me that there's a lot more depth to the people I see on the screen. I'd like to share with the world and with the court about the Sarah Boone that I know.
And that's why they're here, isn't it? Giving an impact statement. I would like to share with the world. Sarah Boone's going to take the stand and give her statement to the court on her own behalf.
What I have here is, like I said, an edited version. But I would like to read the more important parts that I feel that everyone should know that wasn't said in my actual trial. And on top of what I have on paper, I have, this is just the tip of the tip of the tip of the iceberg.
I bet it is.
So I wanted to read this, and then if I may, I would like to address everyone in my apology on top of my statement. Kintu sukuroi is a kind of Japanese ceramic style which means to repair with gold. In this tradition, when a ceramic piece breaks, an artisan will fuse the pieces back together again using liquid gold or gold dust lacquer. So rather than being covered up, the breaks become more obvious and a brilliant new piece of art emerges from the brokenness. It embraces flaws, weakness, and imperfections, and also teaches the essence of resilience. Every crack in a ceramic piece is a part of its history, and each piece becomes more beautiful because it has been broken. This is the wisdom of Kintu sukuroi. In my wisdom and with all of my repairs, then, now, and ongoing, God is, has been, and will always be my artisan. All of my gold is forgiveness. This has held me together, made me shine brighter, and overcome the damage caused by George Torres, the Torres family, the justice system, Orange County Corrections Department, social media, scoundrel detectives, infamy, defamation, ongoing constitutional rights violations, second-degree murder, forced into being pro se. Just as gold is very precious, forgiveness is invaluable.
Okay. Well,
forgiveness is not an attempt to change or forget who, what, or how you've lived through to be so gold, but an act of grace, humility, and considerable self-compassion to be set free from sorrow. Withholding forgiveness denies your brilliance and adds even greater grief and deeper heartache, irreparable cracks on top of the already that no one deserves, no matter the pain or disappointment, untruths or injustice. It doesn't matter. As the more broken you are, even though now different than before, you've become more outstanding and more extraordinary. Above all, when you let go of blame, misunderstandings, excuses, give up your anger and cease from resentment, this is forgiven. And when you forgive, you heal. And when you heal, you move forward. My goal begins with George Torres, and every time he slapped me, kicked, punched, spit on, raped, stabbed, choked, laughed at, pushed, pulled, dragged, whipped, tripped, stole from, lied, terrorized, threatened, humiliated, forced, degraded, made me cry. Every time he tried to end me, defeat, or destroy. I forgive George for beating me senseless, for trying to sleep because I had to go to work or my son's field trip the next day, for ruining my deceased family's heirlooms, traditions, and keepsakes, my son's furniture, destroying the television we watched together, for wrecking our townhome by breaking windows, punching holes in the walls and doors, ramming his entire body into glass doors, kicking in my front and back door over and over and over, for breaking or removing the locks from all of the doors and sometimes the knobs altogether, so I had nowhere to feel safe, including the sacred space of my son's room where he beat me bloody on his bed. For terrorizing and threatening my blind and deaf dogs by leaving the gate open I built to keep them safe, telling me he hoped I'd find their bloated dead body in the pond or scrape their remains off of the pavement, for kicking them off of the bed and throwing across the room because they were trying to protect me.
so what you're saying is you're not
For
sorry.
threatening to make me unrecognizable to my son by breaking all of the bones in my face, like his brother Moses did to him after he kept seeing all of the bruises from George beating me, like all of the times their father beat their mother. for all of the drunken rages and fist fights with so many neighbors when wandering into their apartments during hunting expeditions after I had escaped.
So you're going what?
For drowning me in liquor and
said
wine
what I
because
said.
I didn't want to drink, causing me to urinate on myself, then butting the end of the bottle in my face, giving me 2 black eyes and a bloody nose. For making me experience what it is to be sodomized. Threatening to kill my friends and the neighbors when they checked on me to make sure I was alive and in one piece. For threatening to burn down our townhome and set my car on fire because I got a job. For holding me hostage on weekends my son was supposed to come over by keeping my keys around his neck, my phone in his crotch, and a butcher knife stuck in the middle of the table as a warning not to ask anything or try to leave. For stabbing me in the leg and not letting me call 911 for an ambulance or seek help, where I nearly bled to death until I concocted a lie to save him from being arrested. For destroying my phone with a hammer because my son called. For me experiencing ever being arrested and after today, prison. For beating me almost blind, crushing my occipital lobe. For having me experience what it means to see stars, like in the cartoons, where a character has a tall lump on their head. I had that too, and many times. For dragging me downstairs by my hair in the middle of the night just to sit next to him. For taking my car driving drunk with my debit card to buy more alcohol while I slept, even after I kindly explained the importance of my car to take my son to school foremost, me to work, and he to his batterers intervention classes and probation officer meetings, where I would be forced to sit for hours in the parking lot waiting for him. For causing me so much trauma and pain, mentally, physically, emotionally, I had to be hospitalized more than once. For destroying my reputation and integrity, for my M for murderer scarlet letter, not letting me feel safe to live, talk to other people, spend time with my son, have a job, friendships, simply go to the bathroom with the door closed, or go to sleep soundly or comfortably. I forgive George for lying, for him trying in so many ways, so many times, to end me with his terrifying love.
So full of forgiveness. In fact, that you just said it was his fault that you've been branded with the scarlet letter M. So she's doubling down on the I did what I did, I said what I said, and I meant what I meant. I don't think there's an apology in that.
My verbal statement is primarily to the Torres family, to the judge, to his daughters.
I don't know if they want to hear from you after that, but they
I
don't
know
really have a
you all
choice.
know who I really am, and that I did care for George, and that I do still love George. I know you know that we had very many good days, and I take offense to the statement of being said that this is just for a moment. Right now with me here in the courtroom in front of you all, this is just for a moment. But the moments before that, in order for me to be here, is
Not an apology.
endless. It's everlasting. The scars that I have on the inside, my outside scars have healed except for my stab wound. But this has changed me as a person to see things differently and to understand things differently and to not be weak and just try to protect yourself, and forever, regardless of the time that I may receive from today, I forever will have this experience. I forever will have George Torres with me in my heart, in my mind,
This experience?
my body and my soul. As he and I used to say that we were one soul split into 2 bodies. This is not just for a moment. It may be for everyone in this courtroom, but when I leave, this is forever. When you all leave, that this is forever. This is forever for everyone here and those who it matters to most. I am one of those who will experience this forever. I'm sorry. Words do not define my shame, and I don't know what else it is that I can say and convey to the Torres family how this happened.
Well, you did blame them earlier.
The ifs and whys and how
So-
really don't matter. It happened, and I'm sorry. Words cannot describe. And I hope that everyone can forgive me, the Torres family most of all, and his daughters, because I know what he meant to them. And I don't think that anybody ever understood what he meant to me and I to him. And I ask for forgiveness.
You've asked a couple times for forgiveness. Let's get to Judge K's thoughts on this case and sentencing. Let's go, Judge K.
The evidence and testimony that was presented at trial, the victim impact statements presented here today, the statements of character witnesses, both orally and in writing, Dr. Harper's report and testimony, the defendant's testimony, pre-sentencing investigation, the arguments of the state and the arguments of the defense. Court pronounces sentence as follows. Ms. Boone, court sentences you to life in the Department of Corrections with credit time served that Madam Clerk will provide to you momentarily.
Right.
There are also court costs and costs of prosecution, which Madam Clerk will give you the totals of momentarily. Due to the court levying a life sentence, the court is inclined to liquidate those to a civil judgment unless I hear opposition from the state.
No, I'm sure you won't.
All right. Madam Clerk, if you could please give us the credit time served and the court costs, please.
Is he not going to say anything?
9 months and 8 days, and the court costs are $418, a state prosecution fee of $100, a dirt fee of $50, and a PD. You're not supervised.
Right.
So the total would be, will come up to 600 and
So $600 and something dollars.
618.
I wonder if he will say
Ma'am, the
something.
court
We'll
costs
see.
and costs of prosecution are $618.
That's
Those will be
low.
liquidated to a civil judgment. You will be given credit time served of 4 years, 9 months, and 8 days. You will have 30 days from today to appeal the judgment and sentence in writing. If you cannot afford an attorney, one will be provided to you. I'm going to have the courtroom deputy provide you the paperwork. Because you've been incarcerated for the last 58 some odd months, the court is going to declare that you are indigent in this matter. I cannot appoint the public defender to represent you as they are conflicted out. Similarly, I cannot appoint the regional conflict counsel to represent
Because they
you
are
for the same
conflicted
reasons. The clerk will appoint an attorney from the conflict wheel who specializes in appellate litigation. And again, you'll have 30 days from today to appeal that judgment and sentence in writing. Do you have any questions for me? You will now be remanded into the custody of the Orange County
I
Jail
really
to
wanted
transfer
to
you
hear
to the
what he had
Department
to
of
say.
Corrections, and I wish you the best of luck. State, anything further?
No, Your Honor.
Defense, anything further? All right. Thank you all very much.
Well, the court did in fact sentence Sarah Boone to life. Florida eliminated parole in 1983 so that defendants sentenced to life are just sentenced to life. Period. So the options for the court today were in that 22-year range. The defense had asked for a downward departure into the 20-year range, and the court sentenced Sarah Boone to life. Yes, she had been offered a plea deal. Yes, the plea deal she was offered was for a lesser charge, the manslaughter, with a 15-year sentence, and she denied that. We saw the victim impact statements early on in the sentencing hearing from George Torres's mother, his sister, and his daughter. And then the defense presented evidence in their case, and that evidence included the chaplain from in custody who had worked with Sarah on Sarah's journey with God. We saw from her cellie, who said Sarah was always helping everybody, uplifting everybody, teaching everybody. And then we saw, or heard rather, from her pen pal who wanted to tell the internet a thing or two about Sarah Boone, and found this case and Sarah Boone about 11 months ago, and they became besties through phone calls, through emails, and through becoming friends over the internet because of this case, and took a moment to talk about how social media has gotten things wrong, how Sarah Boone is really a kind and generous person, and that she even offered her pen pal a kidney, and that the thing she was most upset about when she was convicted is that she wouldn't be able to give her pen pal a kidney. It was one of the strangest things I've ever seen happen at a sentencing. It's normally people who know the defendant prior to the crime. Occasionally, you see people who have known the defendants since the crime happened, but not as often. And then the defense called back the doctor that testified at trial to talk more about battered spouse syndrome. And then Sarah Boone took to the witness box to, she said, apologize. That's not really what that statement was. She, first of all, talked about kintsugi. I don't know if she's a Jelly Roll fan or not, but she was talking about the Japanese art of mending things that are broken with gold to make them stronger and to make them beautiful. Like we're all beautiful despite our flaws. And then she not so much asked for forgiveness as demanded forgiveness, and then blamed the victim, his family, the court, social media, the detectives, and everyone else. So it was wild. She at one point called social media a criminal organization. She talked about people having blood on their hands and on their keyboards, the media moguls who were exploiting her. It was a wild statement. It was not so much an apology to anyone, more of a, I have been misunderstood. No one knows the real me, and I shouldn't be here. That's my takeaway from Sarah Boone's statement to the court. It came across with a lot of rage, though at one part she did say, and in my soft-spoken conclusion, and I have to wonder if she was writing like stage notes to herself on her written statement to tell her that that was the tone that the conclusion was supposed to be in. It was wild. And then the attorneys both made arguments for the case. The state asked for life. The defense asked for a downward departure. And the court sentenced her to life, gave her credit for time served, and made no further statements about the case other than her advisement of appellate rights. I was really interested to see what the judge would have to say about the case, and he let it go. And that was it. So at the end of the day, Sarah Boone has been sentenced to life. A notice of appeal will be filed in about 30 days. There will be an appeal in this case. Appellate counsel will be appointed by the state, and away we go. For deep dives into the stories that I covered here, you can find them on my YouTube channel at The Emily D. Baker and The Emily Show podcast. I stream every Tuesday and Thursday. The podcast goes live on Wednesdays. And if you want to stay in the loop with everything I'm doing, receive the fastest notifications out there, and get more Law Nerd community, join me at lawnerdapp.com, our free app for iOS and Android.